Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Hello everyone. I am Faraz Naqvi, leading researcher of Iran program here at Institute of Regional Studies, Islamabad. Welcome you all on this our event, quite important in the recent scenario and contemporary geopolitics. It is titled as Iran's Pivot to East, SCO membership and regional dynamics. As you are all aware that Iran has been recently granted the full membership of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and the timing of this development is quite crucial for a variety of factors. Externally speaking, that Iran is involved in the Vienna talks to revive JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, but considering the delay in this whole process, the success of it is quite uncertain. And following that, there is a EU proposal to revive JCPOA, but there has been deadlocks as well. Internally, Iran has been facing the challenges of mass protest quite recently by the death of 22-year-old Kurdish girl by the name Mahsa Amini. And this recent anti-hijab protests are widely believed to be motivated by economic concerns, and hijab is only the triggering factor in mobilizing the masses among that. So in these circumstances, when the Western economic sanctions are quite severe, Iran have to look towards the East for economic relief, particularly with Russia, with China as well. But considering the imposition of international sanctions, the bilateral engagement is quite tough. Considering the international sanctions and the obstacles in having the bilateral engagements. So the importance of multilateral organizations, for example, ECO and SCO, are quite significant in this regard. And last year in 2021, Iran's request of joining SCO has been approved. And this year in 2022, it has been finally assimilated into the Shanghai Cooperation Organizations. So considering all these developments and linking it with the overall security and economic potential of Central Asia, South Asia, and the Middle East as well, considering Iran's engagement with the regional parts and the regional countries, we have two eminent speakers with us. First of all, I would like to welcome both the speakers. The first speaker is Dr. Jawad Heiran. He is the director of Persian Gulf Studies Group at the Center of Scientific Research and Middle Eastern Strategic Studies in Iran. His articles have appeared in Middle East Policy and the Caucasus Journal, Cambridge University, Middle East and North African Forum, Atlantic Council, National Interest, Inside Turkey, Contemporary Review of Middle East, Strategic Analysis, Lobelog, and various others. His commentary and interviews have been published by leading outlets, including Newsweek, Turkish news agency by the name Endolo Agency, the Ashashi Shimbam, Qatar TV, as well as Expresso. And he is currently working on a book project titled Persian Gulf Security Orders. So over to you, sir. You will be the first speaker, and I am handing over the floor to you. Meanwhile, you try to reconnect yourself with the Zoom audio. So there has been some technical fault on the side of Dr. Jawad Heiran. Let me introduce our second speaker, Ms. Silvia Boltuc. She is currently the Managing Director of Special Eurasian Forum. She is also the Director of Department of Energy and Engineering at CISAM, Centro Study Eurasian Mediterranean Forum. She has developed her expertise in oil and gas pipelines, nuclear power plants, and chemical engineering connected to the world of international relations and geopolitics. Since the beginning of her career, she has paid various visits, the working visits partially abroad to enlarge her contacts among local and official representatives and collect information and data to produce reports about the Middle East and post-Soviet republics. She is currently working on the project related to Iran and SCO and has been quite pivotal in determining the relation between Central Asian markets and the Middle East, particularly the overall dynamics of Iran foreign policy. Over to you, madam. Thank you for participation.
Good morning, everyone, and of course, thank you for inviting me. So I would start, I think, with 2021, when the decision was made to start the accession process of Iran to a full SCO membership. As well as, of course, Egypt, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia became dialogue partners. During the last summit in Samarkand on September 2022, SCO leaders came together for the very first time after the COVID pandemic. And the summit has been interpreted by Western media as the gathering of an anti-Western alliance, which in my opinion is not a correct view of the organization. And the fact that Iran did not receive the full membership before, I think is a clear proof of what I just stated. I mean that previously, I think it is reasonable to think that both China and Russia were concerned about Iranian stance on the Western, about the Western world, particularly about US and its allies in the Western world. Russia has multiple times tried to create a common ground of cooperation with Europe in both in the economic and the security field, and as we all are aware of, also China has good relation or at least trade ties with Europe, particularly with Germany. In the global changing scenario with increasing sanction and hostility from the Western world towards these three actors, such of course as China, Russia, and Iran, as we are experiencing right now, the attitude toward the Iranian full membership has changed. But still, I think that the closure came more from the Western part of the world towards SCO members and not the opposite, as I think that many members of the SCO organization has shown multiple times the willingness to cooperate with the Western world and to enhance the trade ties. Iran full accession is expected to become effective on April 2023. When India takes over as chair. So in order to really see what kind of benefit the country will get from this membership, I think we will have to wait, because it is really challenging to predict such an outcome right now among this great instability in the Eurasian continent, as we are showing. We are already experiencing an escalation in the Caucasus between Armenia and Azerbaijan, which involved also some SCO members, of course, Iran and Pakistan, and also India. If we think about the delivery of a weapon to Armenia, Iran is facing internal turmoil and ethnic minorities protests. Then we have the Ukrainian conflict, which of course have some repercussion to all the post-Soviet space and not only on this region. And Central Asian republics, we see two SCO members which have experienced some escalation, and I'm talking about Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, and protests in Uzbekistan in Karakalpakstan, China protests with due to the COVID restriction. So it is really a complicated period for the Eurasian continent, but still I think that the challenge is exactly this is exactly the benefit the SCO membership might bring, not only to Iran, but all this country. Maybe if they implemented some more effective tool, this organization will benefit the stabilization of the continent. To understand what kind of outcome it will have for Iran, I think we have first to understand what SCO is. Since its inception in 2021, the SCO has mainly focused on regional security issues. So it's fight against regional terrorism, ethnic separatism, and religion extremism. This is quite interesting because actually in the Western world, the perception of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is more of an economic-oriented organization. For Iran, the SCO role in the security field is particularly relevant in the aftermath of the US leaving Afghanistan and terrorism again threatening Central Asia and of course Iranian borders. In this regard, this membership is particularly important as the country is pretty much involved in the Afghan dynamics. As we all know, Iran and Afghanistan share a common border. The Taliban takeover of the Afghan government in 2021 has introduced some new challenges in the relation between these two countries, although in many ways they have common regional interests. These challenges include access to water from Afghan rivers, the large number, of course, of Afghan refugees fleeing to Iran, flow of illicit drugs into the country, and Taliban attacks on Shia Muslim. So what Tehran fears is a new wave of refugees, weapons, drugs, and extremism. As we have the possibility to see recently, the Islamic Emirate has some difficulties managing the internal security of the country. We saw in the last day an attack to the embassy, to the Pakistani embassy. And okay, sorry, I had just 1 second. I didn't have internet anymore. To the Pakistani embassy. And so Iran is very concerned about both the safety of the Hazara Shiite communities inside the countries and, of course, about its border security. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization is very important in this regard for Iran, as many countries which are involved in the Afghan dynamics, such as Uzbekistan, China, Russia, Pakistan, and Tajikistan, are all SCO members. So in this regard, this membership for Iran will help settle the instability, of course, of its border, of the Afghan situation, and try also to involve the country in this new reality, which is also becoming an economic reality. Today, in fact, the SCO priorities also include regional development, but as well as we are all aware, instability does not help the economy either. But still, SCO is becoming also a tool for economic integration. And if on the one hand, we underline the difficulties that involve SCO members and negative aspects, such as clashes between member countries or colliding foreign interests, on the other hand, for the same reason, I still believe that SCO might be beneficial to stabilize the region. But the organization has, this is not my opinion as an analyst, but of course also of international, of the Western world particularly, the organization has to implement more effective tools. But still the potential is there. If we look at the economic integration, we can know that the countries which are part of SCO or becoming members of the SCO organization are all countries, at least most of them, in which China has largely invested with its Belt and Road Initiative. So I think it's reasonable that China is to state that China is trying to stabilize the area in which Beijing largely invested in, and create and increase the strength of its partnership to ensure its investment and its economic growth. Of course, China has also sought to use the SCO to tie strategically important state into this organization amid growing support, US support for Taiwan, and not only from the US. But I think that particularly relevant for Iran is that Beijing also redefined what constitutes a threat to its national security. And I would say this is something where there is a convergence between the Iranian and the Chinese narrative. And I mean that no country can strengthen its security at the expense of others. This was also the idea at the base of the China Global Security Initiative. So in this moment where Iran is struggling with separatist movement and Baku promoting the idea that Northern Iran region should be part of Azerbaijan, I think that this concept is particularly important and relevant for Tehran. Going back to economic integration, this might also be of fundamental importance for a country such as the Iranian one that had applied a resilient policy under sanctions in the last decades. Recently, I have the opportunity to interview the Minister of Economy of Armenia, and talking about Iran, he expressed Yerevan's willingness to increase trade ties with Tehran. However, he underlined how Iran is trying not to export goods which are vital for the country because he's, of course, hugely hit by US sanctions. In conclusion, I think that SCO membership will help Iran to increase the country's role as a transit hub, delivering goods, and decrease the sanctions impact. And in this light, the fact that several countries start exchanging goods with local currency will be a fundamental strategy to also enable Iran to deblock the country economic situation. Another membership that might increase the SCO bloc's power is Ankara's. Turkey announced its bid for permanent membership, and this is notable as it would make Turkey the first NATO country to join the China-led bloc. Notably, Ankara multiple times failed to enter the European Union. It is interesting to recall how Erdogan defined the Shanghai Cooperation Organization as a much more powerful, better organization than Europe. Why is it important? Because this gives us a view of what SCO might become in the future. As for Iran, relation with Turkey has been challenging. As a matter of fact, Turkey's membership might threaten Iranian interest when it comes on positioning the country as the leading regional transit hub. And of course, another threat to Iranian interest is the military alliance of Turkey with Israel and Azerbaijan. Nevertheless, on the other side, Tehran has tried to deliver gas through Turkey towards Europe multiple times, and I think maybe being both part in SCO, if this will be the case, will help the two countries to improve ties and give the opportunity to increase also the connection of the Iranian energy market. The fact that some member states have a pretty high rate of poverty, and for example, the Iranian economy has raised some concerns, but still many international economic analysts think that particularly because of that, because they have this high rate of poverty, there is more space to grow. So to opportunities to improve their economies inside such an organization. Another critical area to consider is infrastructure development as a pathway to accelerate trade in the region. This is particularly relevant for Iran, as it basically is what Tehran is trying to do since many years, to develop its industries and push its role as a regional transit hub, both for energy and for goods, given its strategic location. In fact, Iran has access to the Gulf and has a deep water port. He developed good relations with some other ports in the Gulf, such as the Omani ones. Iran is part of the leading in regional corridors, such as the North-South International Transport Corridors and the Persian Gulf Black Sea project, together with Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Bulgaria, and Greece. And the country also created 7 free economic zones to try to get more investment and to improve the market. So, I mean, the potential is there. Of course, there is a limit to what the country can achieve after decades and decades of sanction, but this is exactly where the SCO membership might help Tehran. Yes, on the other side, we have to consider that recently I think it's still ongoing, the military joint exercise of Turkey and Azerbaijan along the Iranian borders. And there were some joint exercise of the Israeli IDF and the US armed forces that simulated an attack on Iran. So this suggests that the tension is still high and instability does not help at all for economic integration and stability in the region. On the other side, we see that all this, the Eurasian continent is trying to reorganize their economy and their relation, particularly to ensure, of course, the region and their trade corridors. Yes, inside the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, as I told before, there are some colliding interests. And if I had to do some example, we could cite the constructing of the railway Termez Mashar Sharif Kabul Peshawar that will open Pakistani seaports on the Arab Gulf to Uzbekistan. According to open sources, the cost of transporting one container from Tashkent to Karachi will be significantly lower than using Tashkent-Bandra bus route. So this clearly penalizes Iran, but favors Central Asian republics and regional integration. So I think at the end it will be for the benefit of all. And this country might connect this route also to Iran and to other countries and create a network which involve and benefit all the member state. In conclusion, the shift towards a multipolar world opens new possibility for SCO, and I would say open the access to Iran in the organization. The emerging Eurasian superpowers are getting more and more intolerant of a Western control world, and they are reorganizing themselves and their economies. According to many analysts, a coalition between Russia, China, Turkey, and Iran has the potential to be a powerful alliance against the Western liberal order. But this does not mean that the Shanghai Cooperation Organization goal is to contrast the Western world. But given the fact that several Eurasian countries are under sanctions or threatened to be put under sanctions, they are still protecting their economies by looking to East. And they are discovering new opportunities to enhance ties and improve regional trade, which is also the strategy that Iran, of course, is pursuing. So in this regard, this fits perfectly with the Iranian foreign strategy. In conclusion, we can predict that the expansion of SCO membership will provide it also with political leverage to balance the role of the West and challenge powers such as the US, but also Europe against financial pressure. And this is the last topic, I would say. As an European, of course, I monitor every day the European media, but also the US one. And they are all very concerned about the fact that this country are reorganizing and exchanging goods not with the dollars anymore, but with current currency, with local currency. Of course, this is not what is happening about the 100% of these exchanges, but it's still working. And this is something that really threatens the euro and, of course, the US dollar. So thank you very much. I'm at full disposal if there are some questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You quite comprehensively elaborated all the benefits and challenges which the region and the world would face and acquire as well from the recent membership of Iran into the SCO. So basically, you pointed out that it would help Iran in basically assimilating itself into the China-led alliance, quote unquote, and the SCO as a whole organization could be beneficial in assuming basically visualizing the multilateral and multi-order global order alternative to the Western liberal order, obviously. Mm-hmm. And then you also highlighted that through the SCO membership of Iran, there are chances that the synchronization of energy markets inside Central Asia and the Middle East would be amalgamated for the betterment of the regional countries to overcome the Western sanctions that have been imposed onto them. Having said that, I will now move on to our second speaker, Dr. Jawad Heiran, who is currently the director at the Persian Gulf Studies Group in Iran. Sir, I hope the audio issue would be resolved, and we are hoping to get the insight from your lecture. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Could you please share my PowerPoint, Dr. Faraz?
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Okay, thank you. Hello to all dear audiences. I would like to thank Iran program of the Institute of Regional Studies in Islamabad for this invitation. My special thanks and appreciation to Dr. Faraz Naqvi for this opportunity. I'm also so delighted to meet Dr. Silvia here. I will discuss the internal reasons for the strengthening of look to the East policy in Iran's foreign policy. And from this point of view, I will deal with the weakening of the middle class in Iran. Next slide, please. Let me start with the significance of modern middle class. In a brief historical look, examining the socio-political developments in Iran, especially after constitutional revolution, we see the importance of the middle class, and this can be seen until the Iran 1979 revolution and Islamic Republic of Iran's development. This class united with the upper class in the constitutional revolution, and in the 1979 revolution, lower class joined to this class. This class had a major role in the 1997 presidential election that won Khatami and played an influential role in the 2005 election that won Ahmadinejad but not participating, and the 2013 that won Rouhani by participating, and 2021 that won Raisi again but not participating. Next slide, please. During the previous slide, please. During Hashemi Rafsanjani's presidency, we saw the strengthening of the new or modern middle class in Iran. Rafsanjani's economic development policy, on one hand, led to expansion of higher education and the new intellectual and increasing middle class population. And on the other hand, the lack of freedom for political participation of the educated classes and alienated the intelligentsia from the political system. For this reason, the Rafsanjani government was unaware of the impact of modernization of politics, and this unbalanced development, according to Samuel Huntington, led to the victory of Khatami in the next election, whose slogan was to open the political peace both inside and outside the country. Next slide, please. The deterioration of the economic situation on one hand and frustration of this class from political system on the other hand has led to result of the recent parliamentary and presidential elections in Iran and victory of Ebrahim Raisi. As you can see in this slide, the middle class income has declined sharply when Trump's withdrew from the JCPOA. Next slide, please. The removal of reformists and moderates from the power structure has also affected their supporting classes. By presence of conservatives in the government of Raisi, they controlled most governmental and non-governmental institutions. Even quasi-democratic institutions that were previously controlled by reformists. After Raisi came to power, we are witnessing the undermining of social body of the reformists very fast. However, the gradual removal of reformists, especially after the protests against result of Iranian presidency in 2009, has been pursued and intensified in the government of Raisi. One of the reasons is the issue of next successor of Iranian leader Ayatollah Khamenei. Next slide, please. The shrink of the middle class has not only internal effects, it has impacts on foreign policy that will be long-term. This is very important point. We will see this effect in the continuation and intensify of the policy of to look to the East in the coming years. One variable that strengthened the policy of look to the east in Raisi government was the erosion of middle class. The region in the form of the two wars in Afghanistan and Iraq brought direct political and security threats to Iran and seriously affected the direction of Iran's foreign policy in the region. During this period, the main goal of Iran's foreign policy was based on increasing relative security through curbing the American threat. And this development raised the necessity of increasing Iran's regional role to prevent this threat in foreign policy. In general, Iran's regionalism is based on three logics. One, geopolitical, two, cultural, historical, three, ideological, political security issues. Based on this, the logic of Iran's regionalism in line with the look to the east policy is combination of geopolitical and ideological political security factors. On the other hand, the nature of Iran's 1979 revolution and the ideology of political Islam and its opposition to the West and the United States have made the ideological approach in Iran's regionalism stand out and its conflict of interest with the great powers, especially the United States. Based on this, Iran regionalism policy can be examined and justified in different regions, and there is a kind of continuity between Iran's foreign policy in different regions. One reason that Iran insists on look to the east is creating strategic depths in order to reduce the pressure and threat of America in the Middle East region. Since Iran does not have the strength to confront America alone, it follows the policy of coalition and alliances with powers such as Russia and China in the form of long-term cooperation document on the one hand, and participation in organizations such as Shanghai Cooperation Organization and Eurasian Economic Union on the other hand. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Membership in Shanghai is an example of paying attention to regionalism in Iran's foreign policy. Membership in this organization have various reasons. The dollarization, one of the reasons that Iran is following. Tehran believes that the dominance of the dollar over the world economy makes sanctions more effective. On the other hand, the dollarization of economic transactions reduce economic dependence on the West, reduces problems caused by sanctions, and manages exchange rate fluctuations. Since the members of Shanghai have on their agenda the use of the money of the member countries bilaterally, and the dollar is not decisive in this agreement, therefore Iran can manage its economy by creating a monetary agreement. On the other hand, Iran's membership in Shanghai gives the Iran presence an official institutional framework and formalizes Iran's presence in the region. Considering the function of the Shanghai, which is both economic and security, Shanghai can give formality to the presence of Iran in the economic, political, and security structures of the region. Based on this, countries in the region such as Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan recognize the presence of Iran and see it as a framework and a structure that does not disturb the order, and enter into interaction with Iran with more confidence. Countering US sanction is another reason for Iran to become a member of Shanghai. This organization is a powerful bloc that Iran believes can circumvent the US sanctions by doing business with the member states. Despite the membership of countries such as China, Russia, India, and the countries of Central Asia, it can be said that today a significant part of the world's economy and wealth belongs to the members of Shanghai. Next slide, please. Creating a bloc against the West and the United States is another important reason for Iran's membership in Shanghai. In fact, Tehran believes that by focusing on regionalism and expanding interactions in the form of political security, cultural and economic alliances and coalitions with the state of the region, while creating opportunities for Iran's economic and political security role and influence in the region, prevent possible security risk in the future, and ultimately increase Iran's acting power at the level of relations with major powers, especially the United States, and is also in line with the policy of containing America and creating strategic depths. Iran's interpretation of the future of world order, I mean, the decline of American hegemony and the liberal order and the rise of China, is another reason for Iran's membership in Shanghai. From perspective of the leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, the policy of look to the east will be Iran's permanent approach in foreign policy. His view of the international order is based on three axes of global power. The first, the liberal order based on institutions and laws created after World War II, is weakening in his view because American hegemony is declining. The second axis, formed by Russia and China, is seen as rising. The third axis joins Iran with this rising new world order, with Moscow and Beijing adopting a policy of look to the east and abandoning the old slogan of neither east nor west that was dominant after the 1979 revolution. Ayatollah Khamenei recently said in this regard, today the world is on the threshold of a new international order, which after the era of bipolar world order and the theory of unipolar world order is taking shape. In the current period, of course, the US has become weaker day by day. In fact, in the new world order, Iran is trying to increase its maneuverability against America and its allies by joining to the bloc consisting China and Russia, because in this order, it is the great powers that determine international relation rules and norms. And the regional powers, I mean intermediate powers at the international level, can play a role by uniting with the great powers and being in the game. Next slide, please. In conclusion, the erosion and elimination of the reformists from the power structure and the weakening of the middle class will strengthen look to the East foreign policy in the future. Considering the internal structure of power and the texture of social classes in Iran, look to the East will be Iran's approach in foreign policy for a long term. Iran's membership in Shanghai can also be analyzed in this framework. Iran believes that membership in this organization can bypass US and Western sanctions. On the other hand, the policy of positive balance and alliance with Eastern powers will make Iran pursue and secure its interests in the new world order. In the meantime, the Shanghai will have a special place in eastward foreign policy of Iran Thank you very much, dear audiences, for listening.
Thank you so much, sir. So you basically talked about three major themes. The first one was obviously the internal factors that motivated Iran to join SCO, and you highlighted two internal features. Number one was the economic troubles that Iran has been facing owing to the Western sanctions after the abolishment of JCPOA. And then you also talked about that since there are no reformists at the political landscape and the power is on the conservative side, so they resist any interaction with the West. So that is why they are practically pursuing the look to east policy. Apart from that, you also highlighted that Iran's membership of SCO highlighted that Iran has been admitting that there has been a global shift and the global power transition that now the world has been shifting from west towards east, and China is the rising power, and joining hands with China would be beneficial for Iran. And SCO would also provide Iran the space to better maneuver its regional policy, in which there is the high presence of US troops and the Middle East. In the Middle East, there are US allies. So it would provide Iran with sort of the strategic depth in multiple regions, starting from Middle East, Caucasus, Central Asia, and other regions as well. So having said that, now we'll move on to our question and answer session. The first question is from you, Ms. Silvia, and
Yes.
there is a question by a colleague of mine, and he's asking that don't you think that considering the Western sanctions, the intra-regional trade through SCO would be negatively impacted, and Iran would not be able to create any sort of practical results and benefits even after joining the SCO?
Well, of course, this is one of the biggest concerns. This is also the reason why the Western world continuously reiterated that the Shanghai Cooperation Organization has no impact or will not have impact at all. But we have to consider this. SCO is relatively young organization and is still enlarging itself. Among these organizations, we have some of the most energy-rich countries, so gas and oil, which will be even more true if Gulf monarchies will bid for membership. Furthermore, if they will stop exchange in dollars, this will nullify in part the sanctions. And I think that it will play a significant role, the fact that every day more Eurasian countries are showing intolerance towards a Western-led world. So finally, let's look to Russia, for example. Europe is facing a big energy crisis which convert also in a political crisis and internal disconsensus, while the ruble has risen sharply against the euro. So what I'm trying to say that particularly in this regard, in the aftermath of the Ukrainian crisis, Europe was very sure that the sanction will applied on Russia would stop the war, but this doesn't happen and would defeat Russia at least from the economic point of view. But this did not happen either. So I do not say that there will not be some challenges. And of course, what concerns me more is the internal stability of the country, because of course, if there will be a change in the governments and the direction of the countries, the outcome also of this membership and economic benefit that Iran will get will change. It mainly depends also of the JCPOA. And by the way, the European and the Italian, as I am Italian-based, the Italian country also is pretty much interested in the Iranian gas, and not only in the gas. Previously, our leading Italian company in the energy field, Eni, has some interest and relation with Iran. So there is a lot of expectation about the JCPOA. But still, yes, of course, this is a country that have been under sanction for decades. They have a very difficult economic situation. I think that in this situation, they try to do the best they could, at least in according to the strategy of the leading government, and try to implement free economic zones, try to get partnership with country that exchange with local currency, try to establish a connection with the energy exports country, and some swap contracts, for example, with Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan. And as they were threatened to be cut off from the energy route that goes towards Europe by the Trans-Caspian pipeline, they, as soon as possible, try to get in touch with the Azerbaijani counterpart to establish the route also through Iran. So they are really trying to push their industry, the international corridor, and try their best. Of course, it is not easy. They lack investments, and they lack also know-how, probably. But as I told before, I think there is potential there with the SCO membership, and we will have to wait, probably. There are too much variables right now. There is this tension with Israel in South Caucasus, with Azerbaijan, due to the tension to the escalation with Armenia. There are too many dynamics going on right now. The internal turmoil. We have to wait to see how this will end. And of course, the importance also of the partnership with Russia and the Caspian Sea. This is also of fundamental importance. But as I told before, Europe is interested in Iran, and actually we would like to sign this JCPOA, and because this is a country with a great potential, because of its energy resources, because of its strategic location, and because of its relation also with other regional actors.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The second question is for you, Dr. Jawad. We have seen that there has been quite a lot of collaboration on various fronts between Iran and China. So how do you think that would such sort of regional cooperation and bilateral cooperation between Iran and China would be positively taken by the regional countries, particularly in the context of Pakistan, because China is also operating the CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor in the country? Or do you think that China and Iran collaboration would negatively impact the China-Pakistan collaboration? What is the perspective from the Iranian side on this issue? Is there any sort of trilateral alliances being formed between China, Pakistan, or Iran, or would it be negatively taken by both the countries? Can you hear me, sir?
Can you hear me?
Sir, your voice is quite low.
It's okay now?
Yes, sir, it's okay.
In general, the coalition and alliance between medium-sized power and big powers, I mean between Iran and China, is not balanced relation, and for this reason, Iran should consider balancing relations with China and Russia, as I mentioned in my lecture. Look to the east. Look to the east will depend Iran to Eastern power like China and Russia, and for this reason, we can see the negative role of China in Chabahar port of Iran. That Iran wanted to build this port by India, and for the pressure of China and the importance of Gwadar port for China and its relation with Pakistan, China put pressure on Iran for cooperation with India, and we saw that Iran cut the cooperation with India in the Chabahar port. So, the the relation between Iran and Pakistan, it depends on the relation between Iran and China. And I think according to 25 document cooperation between Iran and China, the relation between Iran and Pakistan will not change dramatically, and the internal power groups in Pakistan will determine the relation between Iran and Pakistan. For example, Shahbaz Sharif, that is close to Saudi Arabia, for Iran is different from, for example, Imran Khan, that was close to Iran. So the internal factors in Pakistan is also important in the relation between Iran and Pakistan. Thank you.
Okay, got it, sir. The next question is for you, Ms. Silvia, and it is related to the terrorism that recently happened in Shiraz, in the Shrine incident. Also, we have been seeing that the terrorist incident inside Iran has been increasing for the past few months. So, and also at the regional level, the Iranian footprints in the Middle Eastern region has been sort of on a receding front, considering the mass protest and the political instability going on in Lebanon and in Iraq. So do you think that this SCO membership of Iran, though it is economic by nature, but do you think that it would help Iran in forming this sort of security cooperation, the trilateral alliance between Iran, Russia, and China, particularly, among other countries as well? But do you think that this membership of SCO, which is economic primarily, would be transformed with the passage of time into the full-fledged security cooperation, so as to counterbalance the US and US alliances in the Middle East and abroad?
For me, the question, right? I understood it right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I think it might help. The SCO organization, at the very beginning, it was a security organization against also terrorism, of course. And I think they have to implement some more effective tools, because as I told before, this is a relatively young organization, and they have their goals, they intend, but they do not implement enough tools, in my opinion. On the other side, this is very important because part of the SCO members are the most powerful country of the region, and we see Russia, we see China, probably in the future also Turkey, Iran. So also from a military point of view, we are talking from great powers. And these are all the countries that are involved, for example, as I told before, in Afghanistan. So these have to help. This should be also a tool to discuss this kind of issues and settle this kind of situation. It is not easy. The problem is that, of course, this country has their own interest in not only in Afghanistan, but also in other regions. And these are obviously sometimes also colliding interest. But I think the first to change its attitude towards this kind of phenomenon was China. China didn't have the relation that Beijing has today with the Taliban government. It was not like that in the previous Taliban government, for example, in Afghanistan. They understood that it is more sure, it is more productive in order to ensure and stabilize the region, to have connection with the actual government and also for the economy, as China is also cooperating with some minefield and other stuff like that with the Taliban government, of course. And also for the Xinjiang region, this is very important because they have the problem of this fleeing from people from Afghanistan coming back to the Xinjiang region and creating instabilities. And then we have Tajikistan, which is also experiencing again an increase in terrorism. And so a coordination inside SCO with Russia, of course, this is pretty much involved in Central Asia and also partially in Afghanistan, with Uzbekistan, with Iran. This is very important for all these powers to talk to each other, first of all, and to try to implement tools for the security, to address the security issues, of course, to the spread of terrorism, which doesn't fit with their economic strategies in the future. Of course, this is a huge problem. And yes, Iran has particularly problem with all this Afghan fleeing inside the country, which is not possible to control everyone, of course. This makes, and also with border clashes along the along the border with the Afghan-Iran border. So this is a very important topic. If this membership will help at all, I think, as I told before, also for the other thing, it's a quite relatively young organization. We will have to wait. But this, as I told, I reiterate the same concept. It is important from this organization to cooperate and to, maybe in the future we will see also joint exercise. We will have to wait to see such an AMCON, I would say.
So basically, do you think that linked to your argument that since it is relatively young and the primary aim of this organization was to address the security purposes, so in the region after the fall of Kabul to the hands of Taliban, and there has been regional drive to find out the regional solution for the stability of Afghanistan. So do you think that SCO could play a pivotal role in bringing all the regional countries, Iran, Russia, China, Pakistan, and other Central Asian countries who share borders and have stakes in Afghanistan to just join in a common table and to find a solution? And would those solutions would be effective in the longer run?
Well, if they will be effective in the long run, I cannot really say, but I think they have the potential to do this. They are the US disengagement was not only from Iran, but basically from the region, also from the Middle East. And so we saw a situation, the stabilized situation, which was to address, which the regional country had to address. And of course, as soon as they withdraw from Afghanistan, we saw that China start to cooperate, yes, with the Islamic Emirate, and we saw Russia also interested. For example, Russia was interested in develop the TAPI pipeline project and things like that. The fact is that these are countries as the Islamic Emirates, which because of sanctions and of the block of the economic banks accounts, they need investment. They cannot drive the country, lead the country for a long time without foreign investments. So they need to, and not only investment, of course, because if we think of the mining resources that are exploding right now, also with the help from China, with the investment from China, this was not only an economic investment, but also a delivery of know-how. So they cannot, exist or resisting a long time alone. They need the cooperation with the international communities, and the fact that they cannot get this cooperation from the Western world because we condemn them, we don't want to have any kind of relation with the Taliban government. At least this is the current census of Europe and the US. This means that they have to look to these other regional actors. On the other side, as soon as I realized in the recent day, also regional actors are concerned about the fact that the Taliban are not ensuring enough the security of the country, that they have these difficulties in manage the internal terrorism. So I think that we will experience in the upcoming months, and this is already happening, increasing in terrorism attack, both in Afghanistan and of course in Central Asian countries. And this is of great concerns also of the Western world. I don't know if the US policy will change in the near future, but for now, they are still, as we saw with the recent operation, they are still present in some ways in Afghanistan. They are still monitoring the terrorist things, but they are not, how can I say, they will not take account from this phenomenon anymore as they have done before. So this will be something that the regional actors have to manage, and I think that the SCO member have really the possibility to use this organization in the security field, so to coordinate their action, their strategies, but this is very important. The coordination doesn't work without some tools. They have to implement some tools, some effective tools, to be able to intervene in this kind of situation. And yes, this is still a relatively young organization, so I think we will have to wait until we can see such an outcome.
Okay, got it, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Dr. Jawad, you highlighted that internal politics and internal matters of both Iran and Pakistan play a very determining role in the bilateral engagement of both the countries. So, considering that Iran is facing the economic challenges due to imposed sanctions, and Pakistan is in the dire state of Pakistan basically requires a lot of energy for the sustainability of its economy, and Iran is the major source of energy, both oil and gas. So, do you think that considering Iran's pivot to East policy, there is an opportunity, there is a window for both Pakistan and Iran to collaborate with each other, particularly in the energy domain, by bypassing the Western sanctions, so that those sanctions would not impact Pakistan's interaction with the Iranian counterparts?
Thank you. Yes, the membership in Shanghai Organization can put opportunity for Iran and Pakistan relationship, but as I said, some other factors are crucial here. For example, the role of Iran in China equation, corridor equation in the region. For example, if Iran will be in the core of Chinese corridor equation, and Iran can connect Pakistan from Iran to Turkey and Europe. But the other routes are crucial for China, and both China and Pakistan try to substitute Iran's route. For example, both in corridor route and energy route. For example, Pakistan denied to complete the peace gas line that connected that carry Iran gas to Pakistan and through Pakistan to India. And recently, Pakistan wanted to import gas from the Tapi gas line, and but two countries are neighbors, and they had some cooperation in ECO and bilaterally by by agreement between Pakistan, Iran, and Turkey for transportation and for transiting goods from Pakistan to Iran and to Turkey and Europe. But the important factors is the China views toward Iran. For example, if Iran be in Belt and Road Initiative, the cooperation between Iran and Pakistan will increase, and the Chabahar port and Gwadar port will complete each other. But if Iran will not in the China equation, corridor equation, the two port are cannot cooperate with together, and the strategic importance of Chabahar port will increase, and on the other hand, the cooperation between Iran and Pakistan will reduce.
My last question for this session, and it is directed to you, Ms. Silvia. You mentioned that Europe and European Union as an entity is quite keen to have at least energy relations, trade relations with Iran, the economic relations with Iran, specifically after the Ukraine crisis. Europe has been falling short of meeting its energy requirements. But don't you think that Iran's consistent and rapid transition from west towards east is the signal that Iran is quite discontent and sort of disappointed in the whole process of Vienna talks, and somewhere in the back of the minds of Iranian authorities there is an idea that those Vienna talks would not bear any fruitful results for Iran. So it's better to just shun those ideas of interaction with the West and promote and enhance the cooperation with the East. What are your views on this whole theory and perspective?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, I pretty much agree with you. I think that Iran has lost its hope that he will, see this sanction lifted and that they will sign another JCPOA. And I cannot really say that it's also on Iran's fault. I mean, we also failed in this process as Europeans. We also have some tough requests in some situation. We could have been more, give the country more concession. And the problem was there were too much actors, I think, involved, too much interest. And, also the United States put pressure, and behind the United States, we have also Israel and all the concerns about from the Israeli lobby in the United States also for a war with Iran, although I think that it is not necessarily true. I mean, they are often, threatening each other, but this doesn't mean that we will come to this. Yes, I think that Iran has finally decided to turn to the East because they have lost faith in the JCPOA, or at least in the commitment of the European counterpart. And it is really, it's such a pity because, as I told before, Europe, but not only Europe, particularly also Germany and Italy, we were very keen to stabilize relation with Iran, as we are all aware of the potential of the countries, of a trade with the country, of the strategic position for corridors and the gas resources, so for many reasons. And of course, also university, the historical past of Heirannia is of great interest also from the academic world in Europe. Unfortunately, I'm quite negative about the outcome of the Vienna talks, and I think that Iran has made a good decision looking to East. First of all, because he is part of the region, of course, and this is something very important. And because there are in the South Asia, there are some the most emerging economic powers, and there are the most attractive corridors, and also not only for goods but also for energy, and also the fact that the country is trying in some way to better relation also with Gulf countries. I think that all these countries, not only Iran itself, I think this is true also for Gulf monarchies and for Iran, from Central Asia, they all understood the fact that that sometimes, that the threat of sanction from the Western part is actually a reality for all of these countries. Because recently Europe called for sanction on Azerbaijan, then we call of sanction because of the Turkey's attack on Syria, and the same can be said for Gulf monarchies. So this threat of sanction is basically can reach everyone in the Eurasian continent. So I think that these countries in the Eurasian continent are looking to the east, to each other, to reorganize their economy in order to be more resistant in this case, and in order also not to be always under the Western umbrella, but also to have their place at the table, at the discussing table, as superpowers, as countries with their economic stabilities and with their own role in the region. I think it is a very interesting process right now in this the shifting toward the multipolar war. And it's not only the war in Ukraine. I mean, of course, the war in Ukraine accelerated this process and maybe make more evident this process for Western media, but it was already ongoing also before. And I think that, and this is the conclusion of my answer, I think also that the attitude towards Russia was very interesting in this case, because if we analyze the public stances of some maybe Central Asian countries or other Eurasian actors about Russia war with Ukraine, we have often negative stances. But if you go under the surface, if you look at the relation of this country with Russia, you see that after the war with Ukraine, they are signing more contracts, more agreements, and cooperating more, and have more stronger relation with Russia. So for me, it is like they are trying not to defend, if you permit me these terms, Russia publicly, because they don't want to be condemned by the Western world, by the Western media or Western government. But under the surface, they are still getting the potentiality of also the Russian markets looking to East. So, for example, if I have to make an example, this is the case of Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan has Tokayev, the president, has very hard stances toward Russia. But if I'm going to look to the economy and the agreement, they are signing every day more agreement with Russia. Their trade is growing and growing. And when they told privately in the summit that not involve Western countries, but also only Russia and Central Asian countries, the stances changed towards Russia. And they say that it's a very fundamental partners and things like that. So I think that there is a big part of the world that don't have maybe the possibility to condemn, also the Western act or way of act, but they are becoming intolerant about this double standard policy. This is, of course, my opinion, my personal opinion.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Silvia, Managing Director of Special Eurasia, for joining us all the way from Italy, and special thanks to Dr. Jawad, Director of Persian Studies Group in Iran, to have joined us in this webinar, a quite important one and quite timely considering the geopolitical shift. And we can only hope that this membership of Iran into the SCO would reap benefits to not only Iranians, but also to the regional countries as well. And it could become a platform of resolving outstanding bilateral and regional issues related to economy, security, and other regional dynamics. And we could also hope that this SCO platform would be better utilized in engaging with other regions, particularly the European Union, the Asian, and the other Caucasus region, African, and all that, to have the mutually benefited geopolitical environment that would be beneficial for all the countries alike, without any difference of opinion. Although the difference of opinion would persist, but there are better ways to resolve all those differences. So once again, thank you both of you for participation, and thank you all the audience to have joined us. And in the future, we would definitely gonna conduct these events, and IRS would be happy to invite you both again in some on some other date, on some other webinar, on some other topic as well. Thank you so much, Ms. Silvia, and thank you so much,
Thank
Dr.
you for the
Jawad.
invitation.
Thanks so
It's a
much for
pleasure.
your
It's a
invitation.
pleasure. Thank you.
Nice to meet you and Dr. Silvia here.
Yeah, it was my pleasure too.
Okay, take care. Take care.